Greetings, this is August 13th and there are a lot of red skies around the province. The sun is filtering in a few places and folks are getting a chance to get out and buzz around. Looking at the firm's infrared using the VWIRS MODIS systems, we can see that there's a patch in the center of the province that is not displaying as much infrared. Also looking at the MODIS system on the Google Earth KML, most of the heat being recorded is in the southeastern portion, the north and central portions of the province. If we look at the NRC data, similar picture is being portrayed here. A lot of activity is occurring in the central portion of the province, to the west of Prince George, to the far north, and in the southeastern. There's also a few fire indications on Vancouver Island. They've come up. However, if we go to the overlay, there are a lot more fires than being indicated on infrared. So we want to check with multiple sources, check with BC Wildfire and your regional districts to find out where their notices are. We're going to jump over to NASA's World View. This is from today. The imagery for our portion of the planet hasn't come up yet, so we'll go back to yesterday, August 12th, and just take a look at the weather, and maybe this can tell us why we're not picking up as much infrared as we should be. In the center of the province, there's a large open area exposed, and they're getting a lot of heat up there right now. The trough of weather that came through came from the coast, and then it's moved eastwards to the Rockies and over into Alberta, and we're kind of at the tail end of that. In the northern portion of the province, they've kind of got their own weather system happening, and check with the local weather stations. You can get that from Windy on the links below, and that'll have more detailed weather information for specific areas. Zooming into the area around Fraser Lake, west of Prince George, there we see the fire indicated with infrared, and then the smoke is kind of moving eastwards and westwards and then grabs into a larger trough and heads down the province and winds up spinning around and coming back out to the ocean. So the smoke is getting cleared out. It's just passing over everyone first. And we're looking at Vancouver Island. It looks like they're getting about the worst of it. That's smoke that's come all the way down from the Nechako Plateau. So to grab the fire indications and the infrared in one spot, I highly recommend the Canadian Wildland Fire Information System. Just make sure that you go to today. It's there in the top of the screen with a circle. You can look at the fire hazard areas, and as we see here, that green swath in the center, that's the southern interior where the rain's gone through, and it's reduced the fire hazard in that area, even though there are fires being indicated that are active in that region. Up north and in the center, a lot redder and extreme fire hazard and danger in those areas. One of the sources I like to use is the RSAC VWIRS Radiative scan. And it's difficult to get on there. There's lots of information and lots of people trying to access it right now. This is showing us where the VWIRS system is picking up heat and what the temperatures may be. Higher on the temperature scale, you're going to have brighter colors in the light greens, yellows, and reds. Seeing that the system loaded up in Google Earth, I went to the Great Timber Plateau. This is the area south of Green Lake and to the west of Highway 97, adjacent 70 Mile House, and to the east and over to Young Lake, looking at where intensity is and if there is a pattern of high temperature on the fringes. I am seeing some here in this image of the fire near Sodium Lake. There's some red in the southern flank and some light greens that appear to be moving to the eastern flank. So this could be a result of these winds that have shifted and are now trickling down from the north. So do keep in mind that these fires can smolder, they can seem subdued, there can be a calm for several days. Then when fresh oxygen comes in, they can flare up. We saw this last year with the Elephant Hill fire. It would die down and seem to be taking a rest and then suddenly pop up again as soon as there was a wind change. The fire that we're looking at right now, this is the Wild Goose Lake fire. It's just northwest of Big Bar area, and I'm noticing movement eastwards. Those green dots, the dark blue heading towards the right hand side of the screen, those appear to have gone further east. And also on the northern flank there seems to be a protrusion that's got some bright color in there, a lot of intensity. When we get more data coming through on the NRC system, I'll look back through time and see if we can see the progression of this fire. We're just going to zoom out and take a look in a northeasterly direction towards 100 Mile House. There was also a lightning strike at Moose Valley Provincial Park, I believe, and that is indicating on radar just to the left of center on your screen. Let's move further north now and take a look at BC Wildfire Service. This is the region on the Nechako Plateau west of Prince George around Fraser Lake, and a series of complex fires there. Go to the BC Wildfire site, click on each of these colored regions, and you can find out the evacuation alerts for your area or if you're traveling up there. And this is what we saw in those satellite images from NASA's Worldview with the smoke coming down. This is where it's coming from. If we look at the area on the NRC data, we'll be able to look through time and see how this fire has progressed, and that may give us an indication on direction and where the most intensity is. We've zoomed in here to the area around Fraser Lake. I've turned on the fire perimeters, and we'll start back a month ago. The fire's been tracked by the NRC since June 14th, and what you're going to see is this screen, and it's going to move progressively day by day until it gets to August 13th today. And you can watch the fire progression. It'll move slowly at first and then pick up quite a bit in the last few days. And we are back again. From this perspective, looking at the infrared, it appears that these fire positions started higher up, and now they've caught up in the prevailing winds in the lower valleys, and they're moving from the northwest to the southeast and back again as the wind shifts happen. We can see a lot of intensity on the southeast flanks now and the eastern flanks. However, this behavior appears to have shifted throughout the duration of the fire. Another feature you might want to check out on the NRC data is past forest fires and take a look at what their behavior was, where they've gone, and where previous burn sites have been. Let's jump to another view using the NRC data. This is going to show us hotspots over a 24-hour time period. We'll take off the indications that are a day old and look at just the last 12 hours. There's still a lot of activity going on. Let's go back to an earlier 6-hour time period and see if we can get an idea of where the most volatility is right now. Here's the fire perimeters now indicated, and we can see activity on the eastern fringes of some fire pockets, and on the western fringes of other fire pockets. There's intensity on the northern flanks, and it's grouped up close to the southern flanks on these fire pockets. So winds have been shifting, changing, buffeting, and pushing the fire activity around. We've moved to a screen looking south of Houston at fire near Norley. Again, it's like lighting a piece of paper on fire in the middle. It looks for new fuel and is searching around the perimeter for new fuel pockets. We can also look for pattern signatures which may indicate pre-burning, back-burning to reduce that same fuel. We've now moved back to BC Wildfire Service looking at their map. I'd like to take a look at a fire that's quite close to Quesnel. It's called the Narcosli Creek Fire, and it's approximately 20 to 25 kilometers southwest of Quesnel. It's come up quite fast. It was discovered on August 7th, and it's approximately almost 1,800 hectares in size. Crews have been able to get 80% fire guarded and 30% contained. It states in this report that crews will be working on the south and the west flanks, improving containment lines. Yesterday they did some burn operations, considered successful, and that's to get rid of unburnt forest material in the fire's path. The total area affected on the NRC data is over 6,000 hectares, but not all of that is burned. Go with the official report because they've got the eyes on the ground, and not all of the forest burns. Pockets can be spared. And if you see on the southwestern flank, there is some controlled patterning, and then again on this other fire pocket to the northeast. Let's go to the last 12 hours before the noon update on the satellite information, and the controlled signatures have disappeared, so those were likely the controlled burns that were occurring yesterday. If we look at the new data, it's showing up on the eastern side of these two pockets, and it looks quite concentrated, so crews may be working it together to limit the spread and the expansion of the perimeter. We're rolling into a screen of the MODIS system on the Google Earth KML, looking at a direction towards Quesnel. Our position is kind of in the southwest, and we're looking northeast, and Quesnel's at the top of the screen. Here we can see those large forested blocks and these two independent segments of this fire, one at the southwest corner, one at the northeast corner. It's almost as if the fire's kind of been divided into two. Now we're rolling into another perspective, looking from the south northwards. Quesnel's on the right-hand portion of your screen, and this gives us an idea of that 25 kilometers, what the vegetation is, and what's in the path of the fire. As much data as we can get helps us to make decisions. If we find out what the fuel types are in the forest, where the pockets of forestation are, what the wind directions are, and what is the terrain of the land. The fire can get held back in mountainous terrain, whereas up on the plateaus, on the ridges, it can move quite fast. We've been looking at two screens from Windy. Currently there's a lull over that fire zone southwest of Quesnel. Two opposing wind forces are kind of meeting, and the fire is in the middle, 0 kilometers an hour. We're looking for variation in the direction from the west, from the north, and changing back again. So a lot of shifting. Higher velocities in the afternoon, should die down in the evening, and it does not appear that any precipitation is in the short-range forecast. We could, however, see gusts up above 20 kilometers an hour in the afternoon, so be aware of your position around these fire zones, know which way the wind's going to be coming from, and know what your escape routes are. Have your resources planned ahead of time. It's active wildfire season in British Columbia. Be safe, everyone. Thank you very much for watching, and keep your nose to the breeze.